A few years ago, when I was still in high school, an unusual family trip was planned. My uncle had just bought a big RV and wanted to take his family and mine on a road trip. The trip started in the comfort of the RV, some watching TV, while others read a book or took a nap. But what began as the perfect day for a vacation turned sour with the heavy thunderstorm. By then, we were on a country road, and Uncle, fearing the road might become too rough for the heavy vehicle, detoured onto a better paved road that went around the mountainside. Night came, and it was still raining. The road we took was beginning to fog up, and it was getting impossible to know where we were. It seemed like the RV was going in circles. That's when we came across a lone farmstead. Two women, wearing white raincoats, stood by the road beside the farmstead gate. I don't know what they were doing outside in the middle of the night in the pouring rain, but it must have been something fun, because I could hear their giggles through the car windows. Uncle pulled up beside them to ask for directions back where we came from. They were courteous, giving detailed instructions on how to get back on the right road and which roads to avoid. So we went back on the road, driving in the fog for about half an hour, and ended up in a familiar place. We were back on the farmstead. Pissed off, Uncle turned the RV around and found the two women from earlier approaching. They were very apologetic, saying that they've made a mistake when giving him the directions earlier. I could see Uncle was annoyed by these two, but he listened to their directions again, and away we went. Another half hour of driving, and the RV came to a stop again. This time, we were on a dead end. The rest of the family was up by now, obviously concerned about the situation. My baby cousin started crying. Then, a knocking sound came from the side window. It was the two women from earlier, wearing the same courteous smile, trying to talk to Uncle again. Uncle didn't take the chance this time, and drove the RV off to whatever road he could find. I swear, I thought I could hear their giggles trailing the RV for God knows how long. Luckily, we were able to get out of that mountainside road as the fog cleared up. We all got back home safe and sound, but everyone who went on that trip can still remember it like it was yesterday. I went on a weekend trip with 7 other friends. The place we rented was a 2-room condo. It was clean and roomy despite the relatively cheap price. We ate and drank through the night. Eventually, some friends went to the bedroom to sleep. The rest of us stayed up though, enjoying the drinks and the company. Then we saw one of the friends that went to sleep crawl out of the bedroom. She crawled out slowly all the way to the kitchen, banged her head on the refrigerator, and slowly crawled back inside. We were all drunk and thought it was hilarious. We all stopped laughing after a couple of minutes though. The friend, who we assumed was drunk and crawled out half asleep, did the same thing over and over again, banging her head on the refrigerator and crawling back inside. Something didn't seem right. We all rushed toward her on her 4th attempt and did everything we can to wake her up. She eventually did, and started crying uncontrollably. That was it for the night. She fell asleep again after a good bout of crying, and we all went to bed as well. Next day, curious about the night before, the 4 of us asked her what happened last night. She, along with the 3 other friends that went to sleep early, all had ghastly expressions since the morning. It turns out they all share the same nightmare, one in which a strange woman came into their room, looked around, and began dragging one of them by the head. It was the friend that we saw crawling the night before. My friend resisted the woman as best as she could and ended up banging her head on the refrigerator. When the woman lost her grip, she desperately crawled back inside the bedroom to get away, only for the woman to grab her by the head again and start dragging her out. The other 3 friends, paralyzed in this nightmare, could only watch in horror. This happened during our honeymoon trip. My wife and I went to a resort in Phuket for our honeymoon. It was a famous golf resort with great views and venue. It was really nice and all, but as with any trips that require long travel, we were exhausted by the end of the day and were ready for bed. The bed was nice and comfy, and as I laid there, prepared to pass out in a second, I heard something that sounded like a water flow. It was faint, but was coming from somewhere very close and getting louder by the minute. I got up to see where the sound was coming from and extended my hand to turn on the light. It was dark, and I missed the lamp and touched the wall instead. The wall was wet. I turned on the light and saw the entire wall beside the bed soaked. It seemed like the water started from where the wall met the ceiling and was flowing down, covering the wall like a thin sheet. Strangely, there were no trace of it on the floor. As fascinating as it was, a damp wall just wouldn't do for our honeymoon. I called the front desk and let them know what was happening, and maintenance came in no time to check on the issue. Whatever they did, it worked. The water stopped flowing after a couple of minutes. The maintenance crew left as quickly as they had come. My wife and I wondered if we should just ask for a different room for a moment, but decided to get some sleep first. We were too tired to think about it right now. As exhausted as I was though, a strange feeling kept me from falling asleep. It was so weird to see water flowing in a thin sheet like that, seemingly out of nowhere and disappearing without a trace. I curiously gave the wall another touch. It was bone dry. It hasn't even been 5 minutes since the maintenance crew left. It creeped me out a little, but I just went to sleep afterwards. I needed all the sleep I can get for the days ahead. It was a honeymoon trip after all. I've recently visited a friend out of town. It was the first time I've seen him since he moved to that area. I've never been to that city before, so there were lots of places to go and things to do for me there. Overall, it was a great trip. On the last night in town, after saying goodbye to my friend, I went back to the hotel room I've checked in earlier that day. I wanted to relax my last night before the long drive ahead tomorrow, so I picked up some beer on the way back to enjoy with the nice movie. My room was at the end of the hallway, at the edge of the hotel building, room number 413. My friend and I had some discussions on horror movies earlier that evening, and to tell the truth, I was still a bit spooked. I enjoy a bit of scary movie every now and then, but my friend is almost obsessed with them, digging up real-life events that are similar to the movie plots and such. He's a real nice guy, but the things he talks about in the conversation on scary things are enough to chill the bones of the toughest man out there. I think the time was 2, maybe 2:30 in the morning. Nothing good was on the TV anymore, and I was getting pretty tired. I cleaned up, packed my bags, and went to bed. Then I heard a sound. It was coming from the room next to mine. Thump, thump, thump. It was a streak of rhythmic thumps, as if something was banging against the wall. It lasted for 2, maybe 3 minutes. I wondered what that noise was, but upon hearing a soft moaning sound that accompanied it, I figured it probably was a pair of lovers with a bit more passion than usual. I woke up a bit late in the morning. I'm not usually very nosy, but I got a bit curious about the crazy, love-making couple next door. So I asked the receptionist as I checked out, "Who's in the room next to 413? She casually answered, "Room 412? No one. It's been empty for a couple of days."